Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Molten Truth. I am your host, Zoey Michaels, and today we have as our special guest Candice McPhee, who, like many of us, we've been in the corporate world. We have these experiences in our life, and sometimes life takes us for an unexpected turn, and we end up in just in the middle of an adventure. And that's where we're at with Candice. We're in the middle of her adventure, and this is our chance to get to know her and her writing and what she's all about. And I think you're going to love the book that she has that just came out earlier this year. Candice, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So you and I had spoke a while back, and you told me a lot about your journey and about the way that you framed your books. Would you like to share that with our audience?
Absolutely. So, I guess my journey started a couple journeys, which is great, right? You want to have your life filled with journeys. So when my mom died when I was 22, and that it'd been a long time. She'd been sick for a long time, and I didn't quite know much of anything from life other than I was very good at hospitals, just very good doctor's appointments. So I moved to a new city and tried that on, and it just didn't fit. It wasn't. I just was kind of stuck in this sort of wheel of just general unhappiness. So I decided to pack up my life and just go backpacking and just go with no end date. I just sold or got rid of everything and just left. And I said I would be back in a year to my family before I left. And this is called the Back in a Year series that we're talking about from a book perspective. And I just went, and I had a loose agenda, some travel plans, nothing of great consequence. And I took a one-way ticket to London, England, and just said, okay, here we go. And that's where the adventure started. And the adventure lasted for 6 years. But the books are about the first year in terms of that real trip where I backpacked around the world and all the adventures and crazy things that happened along the way in the 90s. So whole different time period before your cell phone, before anything. So that's
or at least before cell phones were manageable sizes, right?
Oh yes,
They were like the big old giant brick.
the shoebox. But no, it was I think the interesting thing for me is I recently took a holiday with my family, and I literally spent days on the internet researching places to eat, things to see, and I pretty much saw everything before I left. And I looked at the menus of the restaurants, I looked at everything and thought, okay, it takes me this long to get from here to here, and then we should have lunch here. And it was so organized. And I don't know, and maybe I'm just an anomaly, but I think if I'm spending all this money, I might as well get the most out of my time.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, right. And this time period was completely different. It was just flipped on its head in terms of I had endless amounts of time because wasn't time bound, and I had a small amount of money. So everything was cheapest. Everything was the lightest version of what I could get from a cost perspective, all to extend out the trip. And because back then our internet was light, if you will, you didn't see anything before, so you didn't know what it was like. And you got there and everything was a surprise, and every place you went was a surprise. So it was just such a different time, and so much of the adventure happened in between the sites, if that makes sense. Because now, you go to sites and you're like, hey, sites. But then it was different. It felt like the most interesting things happened in between the things we wanted to see or I wanted to see. And it was just the people or the trials to get to a place or just something different. And my goal for this series was for folks to really have backpack on, to experience the adventure from A to Z. It's not just a travel guide taking you from one place to another. It talks about really growth as an individual in terms of when I left home to when I finished this trip, and the things I saw and the influences they had on my life, and just experiencing the interactions with multitudes of people, types of people, good people, bad people, just sort of people that kind of stayed for too long or didn't stay long enough, and just the impact books have on your life and your trajectory, and generally this very different way of living that I've never experienced since, just because I feel that everything's much more structured and time bound, and it's very rare, well, for me anyways, and still has been, that there was no time bound to this, and it was just such an interesting take on how to live. So it's just a very different adventure.
Absolutely. So now, are your books, obviously they're based on your story, but it's, very often sometimes we fictionalize just because we don't want to say, it was just about us, but here's this, person that we're using as a fictional vehicle to tell our story. So are your books fiction, or are they like specific to you and your story?
Yeah, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, they're 100% true. There was enough material, a surprise to myself. I really thought, okay, I'm going to write a book. When I got into it, I went, oh la la, there's a lot here, and there's a lot that happened, and I really want folks to experience it. And in order to do that, I needed more words and more space, and just each book has its own sort of story and kind of leaps you through a sort of a time bound sort of situation and geographical area and experience that comes with the geographical area. So yes, they are all true. There's a lot of stuff I've left out, but most of it, my goal is, as well as, when it's a laugh, it's a light read, but it's also cringy. It also gives you the feels. I would say most people could relate to it, man or female, but there's definitely just a lot in there around experiences and adventures. And I think the best way to describe it is kind of like Bridget Jones Goes Backpacking. So if you just kind of take that and put it around
That's
your
a
arms,
great visual. I love that.
that's what these books are. Yeah.
Very cool. So, you said something about, I'm sorry, my phone thinks I'm talking to it. That's lighting up at me. But, sometimes, like you said, you go in with a plan. You're going to go see this certain area of a country, and then unexpected things happen that change your plans. And sometimes they end up being so much more for the better. You stumble on things that you never even knew were there, and you have the best possible time. I would love to hear about some of those moments in your travels.
Yeah, I think, let me think about this one, for example. The latest one takes place in, oh yeah, so I'll give you an example. In this latest one called Hello, I'm Here, that one starts in Prague and ends in Cairo. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, I had a roommate that I used to live with in Toronto a long time ago, and she's Dutch. So I called her and said, "Hey, I'm going to be in town for a particular weekend if you're around." And she said, "Oh, absolutely, I'm free. Come along." So I thought, oh, yes, like we've been staying in backpacking places. I'm thinking like a duvet. I'm thinking like home cooked meal. I'm thinking like a coffee. And I'm so excited. And the first day she treated me to all of that. And then she said, "Oh, by the way, my sailing regatta is this weekend." She's Dutch, so that's what they do. A lot of Dutch folks down. And I was like, "What?" And she said, no, it's going to be great. Don't worry. And I said, "Dude, like, no, I do not even know the names of the front and the sides. And this is a really bad idea." But to be fair, she didn't, yeah, she's also stubborn, didn't let me relent. I said, "I'll just stay here." No, I was coming. And to be fair, it was one of the most interesting weekends I'd had. We sailed all around the Netherlands, around this town with and she opened up a map, and it was all just blue with slight green, and there's all these bridges you have to go under, and just this total commitment to this sailing adventure. And it was funny because we walked in, it was at this old barn, And I felt like the kid, I'm tall, I'm 5'10", and I felt like the kid at middle school who didn't have a growth spurt because these people were freaking giants. Like they were all like 5, and I'm like, holy banana. And they're all just like chatting away. And then they'd say something to me in English, just a token. And then they'd go back to their Dutch. And I'm just like, oh my God, they were so serious. Anyways, it was this completely amazing adventure and just totally unexpected. So stuff like that I just random stuff that you would not even expect to happen, and it just does. So
Those are
yeah,
so the best. We
it's a
had
cute
something
page.
like that. Yeah, absolutely. We had something like that just after COVID ended, right when travel was starting to open up again. New Zealand decided to open up to tourists, and they to help get people there. They put out a deal that was impossible to ignore. We went to New Zealand for the same price it would have taken us to do a 1 week cruise around the Caribbean. It was so cheap. So we wound up doing that, but it was also in that time period, of course, it turns out, when they had those awful hurricanes come through that made the news, right? When the Auckland airport flooded, and then it flooded again. So we came within a hair's breadth of canceling our trip because we had planned, it was going to be a 3 week vacation altogether, 2 weeks in New Zealand, and then we were taking an extra couple days for the three-day layover in Tahiti. But we wound up having to cancel all of our plans for the North Island because it was devastated
Yes.
from all those hurricanes. So we're down in the South Island for the first part of our planned trip. And we're thinking, okay, so the second part of the trip, we might still be able to go north, but nope, it was just as bad or worse. And so we had a week, we had to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? What else are we going to do on the South Island? We had only planned on this specific area. But that's, for lack of a better word, that's when the magic happened. We wound up getting in the car and basically winging it. We found an Airbnb one night at one place. We got to the southernmost point of the island, so we were very close to Antarctica, and it was so cold. But that southernmost tip of New Zealand, South Island. But the next day, this is where it got cool. So we traveled east and landed in this little nothing town. It was a cute town, but it was just, nothing special at first glance. We had booked this Airbnb hotel place, and it was the most amazing hidden little treasure of a place because it wasn't your average hotel. It was this hotel kind of place slash Airbnb that was on its land. They had sheep, they had llamas, they had these geese around, and being here from the States, we're not surrounded by sheep and all these types of creatures, and to be there and hear him calling them and having a chance to feed them. We actually stayed. We had only planned to stay one night. We stayed the second night because we loved it so much, and that was just a hidden gem. It was the most beautiful thing.
Right. It's when you're not in a rush and you have time to slow down. And I don't know about you, sometimes when I'm on a holiday or something, I do try to just sit on the bench and watch folks go by or wherever I am. Because so many people are so busy and they walk so fast or they're missing it. But there are some interesting things you see, just life, right? And just it's moments that you can appreciate and just to watch folks just go by, um, anyways, and just how people interact. And anyways, I find that all fascinating. So as much as possible, I try to just, but it's hard because a lot of times you're on a schedule and you're moving from place to place, which is why to me this adventure is so unique because it's very rare that you're not time bound, like your 2 weeks trip or your 3 weeks trip. And there was no time. Like I had nothing to get back to. It was just money. I just had this much money and that's how long I could go for. This much money's worth, not time. So it's just completely on its head.
So did you find ways to make your money stretch? Like, did you do little side jobs or some kind of little something along the way?
Yeah, I absolutely did. I did side jobs on the way. And like I said, everything was, there was no taxis, it was always a bus. Or, if you had a choice to, whatever I would do to save money on a journey, it would always be the cheapest way was the best way. And it could be a longer bus or a layover or anything. It was always that just ways to live the cheapest way, always staying in a dorm room, always staying, yeah, just finding the best way, the cheapest way, and then not staying too long in bigger cities. That's always more expensive too. Smaller places to stay, but yeah. So it was a completely different time in this wild adventure filled with crazy people and crazier situations and stuff that happens.
Believe it. One of the cool things about, getting outside of the United States and going to other countries is that you do end up having experiences that in the United States we might shy away from. The idea, like, for example, of staying in a hostel, here in the States would never even occur to you to do that. But going to another country, for a time, I actually had the opportunity to live in Ecuador with my now ex-husband. But that was my first experience staying in a hostel. And that was while we were living in country. And, in my head, these were awful places. Why would you ever go to a hostel? But they were so nice. They were just as nice as a regular hotel here in the States, in some cases, even nicer. But until you've been out of the country and had those experiences in those countries, the average person, I don't think,
Yeah,
would realize that.
no,
And
just
I'm
trying to
guessing that
figure
you
out
did
best.
your fair share of. Exactly.
Yes, lots of them. So every time, and yeah. So yeah, that's what it is. It's a to me, it's this immersive experience into a time period and like a lifestyle and mentality. Just getting into it, just everything from the music to the way it was like to live then before all the conveniences that we have now, and just kind of going for it, and just seeing where you end up, which is exactly what you did in your one blissful week that you had the gift, right? So
So as you traveled between England down to, I think you said Cairo,
yeah,
what were some of your favorite stops along the way? I'm guessing Prague was one of them.
Prague is
And
great. I really liked Prague for a lot of reasons. Read the book. Uh, I think from a natural beauty perspective, just a complete surprise was Croatia. And Croatia was not on my list at all. And I was traveling with this Australian lady or woman, girl, whatever. And we ran across this Canadian guy, and he had just come from Croatia. We were in Lithuania, and he said, "Oh, you really need to go to Croatia. It's so great." Come on, can't be that. He goes, "No, no, you have to promise me. You have to go. You're not going to regret it." And so we sort of found ourselves a bit of extra time, like you did, and thought, okay, well, let's give it a go. And it turned out to be one of my favorite times on the trip, just from a complete beauty perspective. There's more folks going there now. Game of Thrones did a lot for Croatia, just in terms of it was filmed in Dubrovnik in the south of Croatia, and it is just as beautiful as you would imagine. So a lot of folks is becoming a lot more touristy now, but this was 25 years ago, and 25 and so yeah, lots of it was just this untouched, beautiful place that you could just rock up and just jump off the peninsula, go for a swim. So that to me was by far a stunning beauty, and just and probably still just living today.
and I actually have some personal experience with actually my best friend's father is Croatian. So as you're saying this, I'm picturing his personality is very robust and this is this, but they're the most warm-hearted, hospitable people as well. I love the way that they just are like, come in, what can I feed you? And, maybe take off your shoes. But, but I can only imagine the beauty of the place and the beauty of the people. That had to have made for a wonderful time.
It was absolutely beautiful. So just quite an experience to be able to experience that for sure. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when I picture Cairo, in my head, I'm thinking desert, like desert, like Egypt and all the pictures from like Indiana Jones and whatnot. Is that about spot on, or is that very far fetched?
Yeah, so I'm with you on the Indiana Jones thing because growing up, that was the main sort of, I guess, the drawing point of, wow, that must be what Cairo's like. So I rocked up to Cairo thinking, oh, this is going to be all like, I'm thinking the markets, where he had to fight with the whip and the thing. I thought, okay, this is it. And no, Cairo is this just overwhelmingly large, noisy, busy, stressful, polluted place that just sits on you. And it's so not what I expected. And it was just so like 1,000 cars, and everybody's trying to pass everyone. And so much noise, like people noise, car noise, just shouts and screams and clangs, and just so busy. It was so overloading to the senses. And the city just has this large, just this arch of smog that sits over it, and it just kind of sits on your chest, and you can barely breathe. Like it is, I can't go for it. Like it's just so overwhelming that, to a point where we could only go out a couple hours a day. It was just
That's
so,
so sad.
it was just like, I just couldn't, like my brain just started to short circuit. And I just thought, oh my gosh, imagine like how much your ears must be around, like just ratcheted up living in this place. Um, Obviously there's pyramids there. That was a big highlight for me. And
Hey, the
we
history.
went through the pyramids. So that was great. But we didn't stay in Cairo too long, just long enough to get organized and see, the main sort of pyramids. And but Aswan, now if you take the train south and go straight down south down the Nile and get to Aswan, Aswan is Indiana. Now, Aswan has that market, it has that dusty, and you can smell the Nile, but you can also like just feel the dust like sort of layering on your skin, but you have sunglasses on and there's like a bustle, but it's not this oppressive sort of sits on you kind of thing. And it's much more what you would imagine, like the spice markets with the mounds of fresh, all sorts of colorful spices or fruits or blankets or any kind of like trinkets you want to buy. So they're all there for your enjoyment in Aswan. But Cairo is definitely a overwhelming, all-encompassing place for sure.
And I guess that makes sense with the history of it and where it's situated, but that's just such a sad outcome for a city to get that bogged down with pollution and just that's just a crime. It's just a
There's
crime
just a
against
lot
nature.
there. So they, I could imagine it's not an easy place to carve out your existence. That's for sure. To be a woman there is, well, a foreign woman. I'm not sure about local folks, but foreign woman is not an easy place to venture. There's a lot of places I've been to which were not easy, but Cairo is the definite most challenging place as a woman.
Now, I'm thinking that at least some part of it, I mean, most lands have at least some areas that are lush and green. I'm guessing there was at least near the river part, right? I mean, it's not all desert, right?
No, the Nile is quite literally the sort of the the slice of life, and we were opportunity to travel along the Nile, and you can just see like this like green, so green, like lush. The word lush was invented because of this green. Like it was just a thriving, just this, you could almost feel it. It was so green and it was so beautiful. And along the banks, and then they'd have farms and all sorts of stuff. And then it would just fade out. And then there's just these beautiful desert sand dunes that just expand along, just like the Nile's magic could only stretch so far and feed so far. And then it just became the deserts. It was the most,
It'd
it
be a
is,
beautiful painting, I would imagine. That lush
well,
to that
yeah,
to the and then fade to the sand. I could
it was
almost
so
picture it.
beautiful. It was an amazing beauty to see and to experience. Absolutely.
Very cool. Now, within your travels, did you happen to make it over to Turkey, or did it go? You go like just across the Mediterranean, maybe from Italy or from Greece? I'm guessing
Not in
Greece.
this, I did go to Turkey, but there was a bit of a situation that happens in book 3 why I ended up missing Turkey. So yeah, I flew from Amsterdam to Amman in Jordan, and then went through Jordan, Israel. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I've loved hearing about these travels. I could go on talking about that. Did you only go to that on that one trip, or have you since made other trips to other parts of the world?
Um, well, I had to kind of get my feet wet, if you will, to see if this was something I liked. I started out just with a little sort of try it on 3-weeker, hitting all the main spots in between before I finished university in the summer. And then after my mom died, I did like I don't know, 6 weeks or something just to kind of just wander. And that's when I went to Turkey. But this adventure that I read about is a couple of years after my mom died. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm fine. Like, I'm just going to live my life. I'm fine. And I wasn't fine. And I really needed to, after so long, she was sick for so long, and looking after palliative care and being a family of caregivers is a lot of work. And, it definitely takes its toll on everyone, and everyone has to recover their own way. And this was how I did it. And that's what this is. It's just a big recovery adventure slash. There's lots of romance, and there's like heartache, and then there's crazy people and bad situations, and it's just all there for you to kind of go through and armchair enjoy while you just relax and take the journey. So
Absolutely. And it's interesting because we all do heal in different ways and at different speeds. And what's
mm,
right for one person isn't necessarily right for another person.
no,
People might say, well, what are you doing traveling if you're still grieving? But that was part of your healing journey.
yeah, for me, again, before I did this, it was very much okay, go here, go there, go this, and I did not schedule, if you will, time to reflect and heal. And this was time where I devoted to, okay, what, digging out those feelings and really figuring out how to manage that, because losing her was something, right? But it was when you're a primary caregiver for such a long period of time, so much of your slice of your life is devoted to that, that there's this full space. Not only do you miss this person, but there's this full space of emptiness that you don't have a purpose for anymore. You had a purpose for this circle of your life, and this full slot was devoted to that particular care, and it's gone. So it's empty. And just realizing that's empty and figuring out, what do I fill it with? Who who am I without this piece? And filling it up and figuring out how to complete yourself. Um, that's work, right?
Absolutely. And for you, especially, because we're talking about the ages from 14 to age 22, you were a very young person trying to figure out who you were in the first place while you're going through this taking care of your mother. So, I mean, that's more than most people have to contend with at such a young age. Usually, we're more like in my age group in our late 40s, 50s when we're dealing with the loss of a parent or a parent's ill
Yeah.
health.
My mom used to say that to me all the time. She'd say, "Oh, I should be here with my mom. You shouldn't be here with me." And those are things you have to. get over as well, right? And realize. And just figuring out how you're going to learn and grow from that and what are your experiences after that. And by no means, from my perspective, everyone goes through stuff, right, that shapes your life. And I don't think mine is anything like harder than anybody else's because everyone's grief or trials are their own. Like, I can't say that I had lots of other things really well and I had a really great family life and everyone loved each other and we got lots of hugs. So there was a lot of other things that were so positive about the way I grew up. And it was just figuring out that space of who I was. And most folks are still trying to figure that out, like you said, right? It's just that mine just had another layer to it. And just yeah, so we just had to do it. And I think one of the first things I said to my husband when I met him was like, life's not a guarantee. We're not saving stuff until we retire. Like, we're doing stuff when we want. We are, and if we have to work longer, then so be it. I'm not going to save life until later. We're going to live each day and each moment and just live how we want and make sure our kids do that too, because nothing's guaranteed. And that's kind of
a valuable lesson that you learned at that early age. And obviously you took that to heart, and early in your life you made things happen. And really, life is meant to be lived. We're meant to have those experiences. We have to work to earn a living, but does our work have to be our life? Not at all. So I completely agree with you. Now, I do have some notes of a couple of different things. One had to do something with the TSN Sports Network and something about a turning point. Can you remind us about that?
Oh yeah. So in Canada, I know you're in where are you
United
in the States?
Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cincinnati. Okay. Well, we're just north. I grew up in Montreal. And, our sports network is called TSN. And they always have this TSN turning point of the football. So, anyways, it was my mom and I, and then I have brothers and my dad. So after my mom died, it was just me and all the guys. So I had to watch a lot of football and a lot of sports. So and Star Trek. Anyways, so
I'm with you on the Star Trek. We can talk about Star Trek.
I love it. I could go on forever. So during the football game, after the highlights or whatever game you're watching, they'll say the TSN turning point of the game is blah. Like, they'll say, okay, at this point in the game, this goal or this touchdown or this play really changed the momentum of the game or whatever. So to me, the TSN turning point for this adventure in my life was doctor's visit. And it was doctor's visit where I was living in Toronto and I was really down in the dumps. And I went to the doctor and I just said, look, I'm so tired and everything's so hard. And that's when I'd only met her once before, and she just kind of drew 2 circles on the thing and showed me the space in my life that was missing from before and after. And I looked at it and it was so jarring to see it on paper. And she just circled it and goes, you're not doing anything in this space. You're trying to fill it with stuff, but you're not. And that's why you're so unhappy, because you have this whole third of your life, third of your day that you're not doing anything with. And I just went, oh, like, it was just this real jarring situation. And that to me was my TSN turning point. And I said, well, I don't know what to do. And she just looked at me and said, that, Candice, is what you have to figure out. And I just went, ugh. And it was it, right? It was my moment. It was the moment where I said, okay, I have to make a change. I can't continue to live this way and this emptiness. And I didn't watch my mom fight every day to live in this sort of swirl of unhappiness. She would be so disappointed in me. And so that was my moment. So if you have those moments, I hope folks recognize them and realize that they're a bit of a gift and a bit of a moment to reframe and take charge and say, okay, what was within my possibility? I had a car and I had not much else. I had a bit of money in my savings account. And I thought, well, if I sell everything I can and then just take that money and then go. And that's what I did.
And I love that you actually sought out help. People have this idea in their head that if I seek out help, then something's wrong, and there's a stigma. That's I run into that. Um, Occasionally, I'll be like, would you like to talk to someone in behavioral health at the hospital? And instantly, there a wall goes up. No, no. Oh, I don't want anyone thinking that I think this or that. But that's not really the right attitude. It's not the healthy attitude. It's about getting the help so you can be healthy. It's recognizing you have a problem. Just like if you recognize that your left arm is tingling and maybe you've got some chest pain, that you're not going to just sit around and go, oh, it'll go away. I'm going to take back and watch a movie. You're going to go to the emergency room because you need help. It's the same thing.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And I think the interesting part was that, back then it wasn't about signing over medication. It was this different approach in terms of, okay, where are you at, understanding you as a person or what you needed, and then being able to offer counsel of how to sort of, help yourself unwind out of it. I appreciate there's times when that's needed, right? And absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just finding the person who's going to be impactful enough to help you realize, whoa, okay, I've heard you. Like the words you used, the way you presented it, everything sort of sat with me and made me realize that, okay, yes, there is something going on here. And it could be a couple people until you run up to the person who makes that happen for you, right? It might not be the first person, it might be the second, it might be the third, or it might be a situation, but there you could have a few people tell you, but if they tell you in such an uncomfortable way, it's not going to land for you, right? And it just so happened that this woman and I, who I didn't even know, and who was I was just another name on her list, came in and made this moment just by being able to speak a language to me that really was impactful, with visual just right there in my face. It was so obvious that I just couldn't see it before. But I hope everyone who's sort of swirling and not quite sure is able to run into the right person and seek out or find someone who can get to that, over that hump, and then the work begins, right? But the first step is always to understand what's going on. And if you're just like, I just no clue. I don't understand. I understand. Why is everything so much work? And this is a big day. And yeah, I had nothing going on. It was just, everything was just too much. And I didn't know what it was. You think, right? You think, oh, well, I would be able to that. But do you know when you're in that spot? And finding that person who can speak the way you need them to is a bit of a gift. And I really hope everybody.
And sometimes too, you have to be ready for that moment. Like you said, you can hear it multiple times, multiple different ways, and maybe you're just not ready for it yet. And sometimes we stumble upon things purely by accident, that our intuition sometimes leads us in the right direction, even though we didn't know what that right direction was. But if we're listening, if we're searching, if we recognize there's something wrong and we try to figure it out, usually the answer is out there. We just have to keep looking and listening and talking. Eventually you find it. So as we're getting close to the end, I do like to ask my guests random questions, and I love even better when they've got a random question for a future guest. Now, my last guest wanted to have their question go to a man specifically, so I'm reserving that one. So I came up with a random question for you instead. So I'm going to pull it up here for my random question for you. Let me find it. Like, I had like a bunch of which one am I going to ask her? Let's see. Okay, I think I'm going to ask you this one. What's the strangest compliment you've ever received, and did you secretly love it?
Okay. So, am I allowed to say bad things here?
When you say bad things, are we talking about language. I'd like to keep it PG.
Like
If that helps. Yeah, I
language.
really prefer to keep the language clean. Can you say it in a clean way?
No. All
If
right.
not, okay,
Let me
we
think.
can ask a different question. It's okay. We don't have to go with that
No.
one.
Okay.
Can you keep it clean?
No, I can't. Sorry. Let me think of another one. No, I don't think. I don't.
That's okay.
Okay,
I've
I
got more
can.
questions. Go ahead.
I've
Go ahead
got
for
one.
it.
I've got one.
Okay.
Okay. So, I was at work, and I had this white blazer I really liked, and I thought, oh, this blazer is so nice. It's like seersucker on the blazer, and it just fit really good. It has full zip and like its neck. It wasn't like a regular one. And I was wearing. We were on a work trip with my boss in Houston, and it was like summery, so I was out there like had my strut going on with my coat with my jacket, and my boss looks at me and he goes, "Your blazer looks like a towel." It's like, oh my god, love this blazer. I just thought I looked so good in this blazer, and I looked at him and I'm like, I said, I thought it was pretty cool, and I pull it around like that, and he goes, "Oh my god." I said, "What?" He goes, "You are a nerd." And I went, and he goes, "I didn't realize what a big nerd you were until this exact moment." And I went, "No, it's okay. I can wear that." Pride. I did not mind getting called a nerd because of my little coat that I like so much, and I just kind of take pride. I wear my nerdiness with pride, and my one of my best birthday cards I've ever received was this little kid in a Superman outfit like this, and underneath it said, uh, "Happy birthday to the person who always manages to stay on the right side of nerdy and cool."
I like that. That's very cool. I'm imagining you probably know the book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yeah. So I'm hearing about this jacket that's like a towel, and I'm thinking about, was it Ford Prefect and how he always knew where his towel was. And that's where my mind would be like, well, that'd be a compliment because, hey, I know where my towel is. It's all good. I'm ready for everything. I'm a little bit of a
My
nerd
favorite.
too.
I still love that blazer. I still love it. Even though I wear it with just a smidge of, does it look like a towel today? Try to like make it untowelish, but anyway, right side of nerdy and cool. I should have that as my tagline. There you go.
And then, there you go. I like that. Or maybe another book title.
Yes.
You know,
There you go.
maybe different genre, different book, but could be an interesting story or about a section of a town that you visited. There's some
Yes.
potential
Yeah,
there.
that's true. That's true. Okay, I'm gonna have to add that in. I think I'm a good spot for it already. I'm already excited.
You're already thinking about a town that you visited that would fit that. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's all good.
So let me ask you this one last question in relation to your travels. Out of all the places you visited, what's been your favorite city that you visited?
So many good ones. I might say Cape Town. I just really like Cape Town. It's beautiful. It's got the water. It's got the vineyards. It's got this beautiful table mountain you can climb right in the middle of the city, and the clouds hang over it like a tablecloth, and it has this really cool vibe to it. So Cape Town.
Right. I will keep that in mind. If I ever get a chance to go to South Africa, I will be checking out Cape Town because that's the southernmost point, yes? It's like at the southernmost point
Absolutely. So much
of
to do.
African continent. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the thing. There's no shortage of beautiful places around the world, just a shortage of time to get there. But as my brother
absolutely.
always says, it's good to have goals.
Yes, it is. I think your brother's completely right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, have you had a chance to think of a question for a future guest?
I guess we can ask them about their own TSN turning point. What was their turning point? What was their most significant turning point in their life? What was their moment where they made the most significant thing?
Okay. And I actually know who the next guest is. She's actually coming up behind you, and I have a feeling I know what her answer is going to be. But I will let you know.
Oh,
But
really?
very cool. Well, I have really appreciated having you here. It's been wonderful just having this fun conversation. You can never go wrong talking about travel, about food. Oh, what was your favorite food?
Oh, favorite foods. Ooh. Oh, they have in Prague. They have this place that's really good deep fried brie, and you just sort of dig in your
Deep fried
bread.
brie.
So good.
Sign me
I
up.
know. I know.
Fried cheese. How can you go wrong?
There's no way to go wrong with fried cheese. So there you go.
I am gonna try that. I am absolutely gonna try that. Deep fried brie. All right, I've got a new goal.
I know.
But yes, so we hope you've enjoyed our show. Definitely please check out CandiceMcPhee.com. Check out her books. And if you liked our program, please like it. Let other people know about the Molten Truth. We are growing. We are going to be having, continue to have 2 episodes a week. We are not stopping anytime in the near future. So come along for the ride. All right. Thanks, Candice.
Thank you.
It says it's still recording, but it also says it stopped, so we'll find out in a minute. I guess I'll find out when it cleans up. Status. Okay, so it's uploading apparently. It turned out really well. I appreciate your patience while we figured everything out.
Yeah, no worries. Do you want me to tell you my other story now that we're off the air? I've lost her. Guess not. Goodbye. Okay, Anik, I'm ready.
Hopefully.